Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Wiki Weekends, where we wind up a wiki, take a deep dive, and keep swimming until we find something interesting to talk about. I'm your host for this episode, Lucas Holland, and I am joined, as always, by the lovely Karl Smallwood.
Hello.
And Karl, you and I right now, we're recording this remotely, correct?
We are indeed, yes.
We are, which means that we wouldn't require an office.
No.
But that's exactly what we're talking about today, Karl, because we're talking about The Office.
Which one? The good one or the bad one?
We're talking about the one that I personally prefer, which is the American TV series.
Oh, the good one. Okay, then.
I used to enjoy watching the UK original version, but I go back and watch it now, and I'm like, this goes so hard on the cringe I can't watch.
I also just can't watch Ricky Gervais be an arsehole, knowing it's not a character.
Oh, I'd love to see you run this place. You'd have a mutiny on your hands for a start, because they would, if that's what you want. Come on, let's bring it on.
No, David, that's not what I want. I want to see this place run with you doing your job, okay?
Okay.
Take the verbal warning.
Still take the warning.
That's true, because back in the day, you kind of assumed, he's a nice guy in real life, he's just playing the arsehole.
Yeah, and then the more you learn about Ricky Gervais in real life, it's like, oh, he's just like that. That's just him.
This is all allegedly. He's allegedly like that.
No, he's like that. He publicly puts that thing out there.
Legal disclaimer.
Lucas, never forget that Ricky Gervais made an entire movie called The Invention of Lying, which is a fantastic premise for a movie, and basically just his excuse to rag on religion because he's one of those weird atheists
that won't shut up about being an atheist.
Yeah, please right now put in that cringe ass shot he himself pitched of him with a wreath of thorns on his head with the word atheist written on his bare chest.
Was that for one of his stand-ups?
I think it was just one of the things he did for a magazine spread.
Oh my god, yeah.
Because he's Reddit the guy.
Because I think one of his comedy stand-up specials is just called Religion, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And where he just bangs on about how much he hates religion for 90 minutes, which, again, back when I thought he wasn't as much of an asshole, or I hadn't seen that side as much, I enjoyed that comedy stand-up because as an atheist, I was like, oh, I kind of, resonate with some of what he's saying quite a lot. Not everything. Yeah. But yeah, now it's just obviously he's done the classic modern Netflix special of I can't be cancelled and none of you can do anything about it. I can say what I want as a white male that you're trying to suppress, and it's
he so desperately wants to be persecuted.
Mm-hmm.
He's so desperate for it, and all you need to do is put in that great James Acaster bit where James Acaster just does his impression of Ricky Gervais. Where it's do you know who really needs to be taken down a peg? Trans people. They've made it too easy for too long. I, millionaire, I'm going to give it to the trans people. They're the ones, when I speak truth to power, that's who needs it.
Obviously, I can't put the whole clip in of that, but that is one of my favourite, just minute-long clips of a stand-up in recent years. Is just,
I'm meant to challenge people. If you don't like being challenged, don't watch my shows. What's the matter, guys? Too challenging for you? Oh, yeah, because it's been long overdue a challenge. The trans community. Oh, they've had their guard down for too long, if you ask me.
They really need taking down a peg, and I, the, white, cis, male millionaire, need to be the one to do it.
So apparently, it's 2019. Most people still more than happy to laugh at transgender people. Not as comfortable laughing at Ricky Gervais yet, I've discovered. That's the line.
I think the only other comedic teardown more brutal than that one is Stuart Lee's 15-minute piss take of Jeremy Clarkson. Where it's a 15-minute long bit about why Jeremy Clarkson is an arsehole and why Richard Hammond is a fucking coward.
Mm.
And if anyone go look at it, it's actually fantastic.
And then there's also just Daniel Sloss just calling people in the industry out for being creepy assholes.
So many.
So many, but we're hopefully not talking about any of those today because we are mainly talking about the American Office, Karl. And I'm presuming just like me and probably nearly everybody watching this episode right now, that you've gone back and rewatched The American Office multiple times on binge watches. And
Yes, I was, around during the pandemic. Of course, I did my pandemic Office watch, as everyone did.
The thing that has kept Netflix afloat for years, just this one show.
It was The Office and Friends, and you can tell that The Office was keeping Netflix afloat because I think it's like Peacock or whatever, the streaming service. As soon as like the parent company got the rights to The Office back, they ripped that shit off Netflix immediately.
Yeah.
I think Netflix paid like $10 million to keep that and Friends on its platform for a year because they knew how vital it was to their subscriber base.
And it is kind of wild how many times you see this happen with Netflix where, okay, for a week, the number one thing can be the brand new, like, high production Netflix exclusive thing that they've just spent, like, millions and millions and millions making. And then in that top 10 list is also, like, 6 shows from 20 years ago that they paid, like, $1 million for.
Well, it's because those shows from 20 years ago actually have episodes and satisfying finished arcs and don't get cancelled after 2 seasons.
You can actually trust watching something that you know's got an ending, like Friends, or I know another big one that popped off not long ago was Suits. That had a big resurgence.
Because people, it's just, it's like, just 100 episodes of this great show that's got, a couple of seasons, like 20 episodes, great characters, and it has a satisfying conclusion.
With Suits specifically, I'd more say it's like, here's a couple of good seasons, and then 6 seasons of just maybe the show shouldn't have kept going.
But they've still got 6 seasons of it, and sometimes
there is an ending. Yes.
Please put in the clip of like Scary Movie, right? It's like, TV shows don't make people violent. Cancelling TV shows does.
Watching television shows doesn't create psycho killers. Canceling TV shows does.
Speaking of a show that maybe should have got, a couple of those last seasons cut away and ended a little bit sooner, The Office is an American mockumentary sitcom television series that depicts the everyday work lives of office employees at the the Scranton, Pennsylvania branch. Just get that little bit of Scrantle.
Oh, I've got a right itch in my scrantle, mate. My scrantle's got a right itch on it.
Branch of the fictional Dunder Mifflin Paper Company, and it aired from March 24th, 2005 to May 16th, 2013, with a total of 9 seasons, consisting of 201 episodes.
Which, you know what that is? That's right there is just someone's month. Of just have it on in the background, just while they're doing work, while they're playing games on their Xbox, while they're sat at, doing work from home.
Well, Carl, why do you think we're talking about The Office right now? Because that's my current mode of living, is I'm on, season 6 of just having it on the background while I'm playing Destiny or something.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, 'cause it's a completely non-offensive show that you can just have on in the background, and you've watched it enough where you don't need to pay attention. You can just look out for the beats.
You say non-offensive show. One of the episodes that I usually skip that I just watched today before recording, I got to the Scott's Tots episode.
What's Scott's Tots?
Has it really been 10 years?
Yeah, so is that one of the roughest watches?
I say I normally skip it because that's so hard to watch through. Of you've just ruined all of these children's lives.
And it's played for a joke.
Yeah.
So do you want to explain Scott's Tots to people who maybe aren't familiar with it? Because it legit is one of the most fuck you storylines in a show.
And also takes place during another really awkward B plot where Dwight tricks Jim into giving himself Employee of the Month.
Look who it is.
It could only be you.
He knew all along.
Have some cake.
There's not even relief from the awkwardness when you're not on the Michael A plot. It's it's just... That's why I normally skip it, just because it's done really well, but it's that hard to watch. And the Scott's Tots episode, I'd say the A plot, the main plot of the episode is Michael is the branch manager of Dunder Mifflin Paper Company in Scranton, and years and years ago he just went and visited this one class and got really fond of this class of children, and they were young children at the time, and because he just fell so in love with these kids, he promised to pay for any of the college tuitions if they graduated.
A local businessman pledges college tuition to third graders.
Michael, why did you promise that?
Which amounts to about 30 kids, and any Americans watching know how valuable college tuition can be, because that's potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Each.
And what makes it worse is, it's not outright stated in the show, but if those kids are under that assumption, you could probably guess that their parents haven't been saving. So he effectively robs an entire class of kids of a future they were promised.
Yeah.
And it's played for a joke.
It's played for a very awkward joke, like, intentionally, but it's played for a joke, and it's just, man, not that he's an evil guy, but the fact that he let that lie fester for, like, 10 years.
Well, Zion, I am not going to be paying for your tuition. Which brings me to my main point, and that is that I will not be able to pay for anybody's tuition. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, Michael Scott is one of the worst characters in sitcoms. I absolutely hate the character of Michael Scott.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like how in later seasons they try to soften his stance. It's like, no. That was a holdover from the British one where it's like he was just basically David Brent light.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really present in the episodes where it's where he's just outright racist and homophobic.
In the first couple of seasons, it's real bad because they are, especially in season 1, they just copied David Brent but made it American, and he was full on just horrible asshole, unlovable in every way.
I think the description used by Steve Carell is sleazy car salesman, which is why if you look, Steve Carell, a lot of people thought he had a hair transplant because he gets more hair.
Mm-hmm.
It's no, he deliberately had the hairstylist pluck his hair thin to give him the look of thinning hair. So when he slicked it back, he looked like, as I said, a greasy car salesman.
You've been ex-punk. Surprise, it's a joke. We were joking around. See? Okay, he was in on it. He was my accomplice. And
that look completely changes in season 2, and they start softening the character, as you say, and making him more of the unintentional, loving, oafish character that's he's just a bit misguided and uneducated. He's not nasty.
He's nothing he does is malicious.
Never,
except for all the times where the things he does are malicious.
But they're framed in a way that it's but that's Michael. It's not malicious. It's kind of is, though.
Yeah, and something I've talked about a lot in the past is rewatching shows that weren't aired in a time where you could binge watch an entire season, several seasons in a row. You really do get a new appreciation for a show and you have the ability to do that. And The Office is a great example of it. So many characters in that are arseholes.
Well, I think the one that takes the longest to really get the true appreciation of is that Jim and Pam are horrible people a lot of the time.
Yeah, and the example of that I like to point out, and someone's going in the comments will say, well, it's a TV show. It's an exaggerated version of reality. But the show is still portraying them as being good, wholesome people. Sure, they live in this slightly cartoonish world, but the show frames them as ultimately good people.
And it especially frames Jim and Pam as kind of what should be the audience favourites of the nice couple.
They're the audience surrogate. Yeah, Jim's the straight man. Mm-hmm. That's why he mugs for the camera, because he's reacting can you believe this shit?
Look at how weird Michael is being right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the episodes that I single out is the one where Ed Helms' character, where Jim plays a prank on him, and he reacts not in the way that Dwight would, and he gets angry, and he punches the wall.
This was the first right of Andy where he was this super angry dude, and they use that episode to then send him to anger management, so he comes back as essentially a different person.
Yeah, also Ed Helms was going to do the Hangover movies, wasn't he?
I think that was it, yeah.
That's why they put him on a boat as well. But yeah, in that episode, the bit that I always single out is when Ed, his character punches that wall and he screams and he apologises for his outburst. Jim looks over at Pam and they just do that, "Ooh, can you believe he did this" face. And then it cuts to them at just sat in the corner having a little bitch session where they're joking about the fact they made a co-worker have a mental breakdown. Mm-hmm. Can you believe how silly that was? Can you believe he did that?
Yeah. They're literally sitting there in like the most bully-ish kind of way of like, I can't believe that guy had a mental breakdown because we pulled a little prank on him. It's, no, the guy has issues and you drove him to that point and he was asking like, please, this is not funny. I am fucking stressing out. Whoever is doing this, please stop. And they just laugh and continue.
So that's the thing, yeah, because it's not like he goes from 0 to 100 straight away. Like he says multiple times, this isn't funny. Okay, the joke's over, give me my stuff back, give me my property back. And I think what solidifies is the next episode where he comes back and he says, look, I've turned over a new leaf, call me Drew. And just Jim straight up says, no, I'm not calling you that.
Pam laughs at it and Jim outright says, just, no, I'm calling you Andy.
And he's like, oh, okay, James, you're not going to call me by the preferred name that I'd like you to call me by, like, the signifier of the fact I've turned over a new leaf. It's like, just, that's such a specifically petty, dickish thing of like, it takes no effort on Jim's part to just respect the way the guy wants to be addressed. And he deliberately goes out of his way to address him in a way that he knows is going to upset him because he just wants to upset his co-worker.
And you would think that would be the moment where Jim could be reasonable as a person and be like, we sent this guy into anger management. He has gone through that and like hopefully come back as like a nicer, more well-rounded person. And he's like come back, not been annoyed at anyone. He's apologized for his behavior. And
that's the thing, is that it's worth pointing out that Andy does apologize. And Jim never takes credit for like being the one who did it.
And it always makes sense when Jim pranks Dwight because Dwight gives it back. Dwight is, a nasty co-worker a lot of the time, and Jim like makes up for that by pranking him in different ways. So it's more of a back and forth, whereas Andy just got bullied.
Yeah, he didn't sign up for that. And like I said, just the moment where he says, call me Drew, and Jim straight up says, no, I'm not going to do that, just to be a petty dick to the guy that he gave a nervous breakdown to. And that's the thing, you wouldn't notice that because that'd be a one-off episode you'd watch, but binge watching the show, all you see is like, wow, Jim's just such a prick.
Yeah, and then another episode that's just happened today, like I say,
you're
rewatching like season 6.
Go on, tell me.
Was the one where they go for the preschool interview. Jim like accidentally walks in on the guy doing the interview because it was like, it's a preschool. The only toilets there don't have locks on them because the kids can't get locked in that way.
Which is a real thing if anyone's wondering. Like,
yes.
they don't have door locks in preschools and stuff in case a kid falls over or something.
Halfway through the meeting, they're like, this doesn't seem to be going well. Is it because Jim accidentally walked in on you? And he's like, maybe it's not going well because it's not going that well. And maybe you guys as a couple are not as like lovable and likable as you think you are.
Because we're really nice people, but you don't seem to like us.
I'm being perfectly pleasant. Did you ever consider that you might not be as charming as you think you are?
Oh, this coming from the guy who still uses a children's toilet?
Yeah, and then there's another episode people point out where it's like, what's the actor's name? Timothy Oliphant.
Yes.
Where he went on like 1 or 2 dates with Pam, and like he tries to do that thing. Like the other day, it didn't go well, and he tries to spare her feelings. And he's like, oh yeah, I lost your number. Oh, I thought he's trying to do that thing of like, it's awkward. I don't want to say I didn't like you. I'm going to spare your feelings. And they just can't let it go.
Pam and Jim are both pestering him like, hey man, why didn't you go on a second date with me / my wife?
And you can tell he's really trying to hold his tongue. He's like, I'm trying to be as polite as possible here. And then like they keep pestering him. So he just says straight up, okay, I just didn't like it. And then Jim gets mad about it.
He just says, I thought she was a bit dorky, which she is shown to be many a time.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He doesn't say that unprompted. Like, he is pestered until he gives that answer. And Jim immediately escalates because I'm not sure if they intended it to come across that way, but all I read that as is just they're those people in the office who want conflict. During the pandemic when people weren't in the office, Jim would be the guy who'd be like hankering to go back to the office because he gets off on those like little moments of conflict.
And if that's not what it is, I kind of read it. My personal way of reading it anyway is that they're just people who kind of see themselves as better than everyone else in the office, and
that's another aspect of it. Yeah,
they can't take that slight from Timothy Oliphant's character, even though, as you say, they pushed him to the point of being, look, okay, this is why.
Okay, honestly, I didn't call you back because I thought you seemed a little dorky.
Hey, man.
Thank you. I got it.
Yeah, like Jim as a character is your typical, and it's like, it's a thing that everyone knows this guy. The guy who can give it, but you can't take it.
Yeah.
Like, he's the guy who'd be the first to, like, you know, if you spilled your pint at a pub, you'd be like, "Way! Oh, check out this dipshit! Woo, 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 woo." If he did it and you laughed at him, you went, "That's not funny."
Moment where Dwight gets back at Jim with the snowman fight.
And, like, Jim's like, "Come on, you've gone too far now." It's like, Jim. Until I do this for 5 years straight, we're nowhere close to me going too far with this, mate. This is the rest of your day.
Yeah.
Do you not like when someone just makes it their mission to just ruin your day? And you see when he's talking, like, I think Dwight's gone too far.
Mm-hmm. This is going too far. Multiple times on the show, you've been shown to get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning to spend a lot of money and prank Dwight.
He's like the bully at school who, when the kid they're bullying turns around and hits them, runs and cries to the teacher.
Mm-hmm. But not to just rag on the show, Carl, and the characters.
No, like these are the things you notice after multiple rewatches, and we won't watch the show multiple times if we didn't like it.
Exactly. We both enjoy the show, and as Carl said, like, this is his favoured version, as is mine. As much as some of their characters are like, oh, they're kind of comical, they can be arseholes, they can also be very lovable. I think the comedy writing is really good a lot of the time.
Yes, it's Greg Daniels, right? Will it say the writer there? I believe
it does say here that it's based on the show by Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant, and the show was created by Greg Daniels, a veteran writer for Saturday Night Live, King of the Hill, and The Simpsons.
Yeah, so King of the Hill is like, you know, you can see the humour bleeding through from King of the Hill of just like really relatable, mundane, situational comedy.
You see the same with the same crew made what was originally a spin-off, but turned into its own thing in Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, and I think the spin-off aspect has always been exaggerated over the years.
Mm-hmm.
It was never intended as a spin-off in any serious capacity. It was more like a spin-off of the style. But it's still, still same kind of humour.
Like, they were going to originally be, like, technically in canon the same world, but then it was like, well, this is just its own thing and it can just be in the similar style. I'm just having a look through here, because most of their cast, apart from Steve Carell, at the time were just completely unknowns.
Relative unknowns, yeah. A lot of them were known for their stage work.
Right, yeah.
So a lot of them were known for, like, you know, I think it's like Second City Players, a lot of them were from, because a lot of them had an improv background, I believe.
Yeah, so I think, like, TV-wise, I don't think many of them had, like, any real, like, big credit or anything before that.
Yeah, and a lot of them were, like, you know, stage actors or comedians in, like, improv troupes and stuff like that, with the exception of, I think it's, I don't know, it's Brian Baumgartner? No, Brian not Baumgartner. He's Kevin.
He's Kevin, yes.
One of the other writers now. Is it Toby?
Toby's one of the writers.
Yes, that's it. Like, I know he was a writer.
Mm-hmm. I believe, like, BJ Novak was, like, a producer and writer.
Yeah, Mindy Kaling was as well.
Mindy Kaling as well. There's a lot of times where you'll just, for example, like the classic joke with Toby, where Toby says like one thing in a meeting and they're like, get out. Michael just is like, I've had enough, just get out, or just don't come into the meeting. You've annoyed me today.
Yeah, and apparently that's because Paul Lieberstein, I looked up his name, as a writer, didn't really like being in front of the camera. So he did, whenever he wrote an episode, he would deliberately not write Toby into episodes.
And I believe as well, because obviously the production is normally on quite a tight schedule. Sometimes it'd just be like, we need him behind the scenes a bit more, so we're just going to write him out of this scene now.
But he did have some of the best moments, like the bit where Michael just puts his plate of food on the floor. It's just one of those things. It's just such a dickish thing to do, but it's so funny. Of just like Paul Lieberstein's just really like pathetic. Just why?
I think just the most tragic part of it all is like the guy has a bit of a weird obsession with Pam, especially towards the first half of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, he's generally just, the downtrodden guy. He doesn't want to cause any trouble. Yeah. He's just the guy who wants to be left alone, not have any problems. And then, halfway through the show, he's like, you know what? My life here sucks. I'm going to go to Costa Rica and go enjoy my life. And then he immediately gets in an accident in Costa Rica and is like in hospital immediately day one.
I've been in the hospital 5 weeks now. I still haven't seen the beach. It's nice to have visitors.
There's a trope name for that. I think it's like the Punch Monkey or something like that, where basically it's just a character who exists to get beaten up and just made fun of. But the longer the show, or when you binge watch the show, it becomes not so much a running gag as just a source of frustration of like, why don't they leave the character alone? And a good comparison point is the character of Gary, or Larry, or Jerry from Parks and Rec, where I remember you talking to me about it when you rewatched it, and it's like, leave him the fuck alone.
It's like, it's up to the end. Like, to be fair, in the end of the show, he does get his fair dues, but up until that point, he's just shown as this, like, really nice, lovely guy.
Yep, such a nice guy.
He just does everything in his power to be kind, do what people ask of him, just go above and beyond for everybody, and because he's like a little bit clumsy and won't, stand up for himself, everyone just treats him like a fucking doormat. And
again, watching that, on a week-by-week basis, that's a fun gag that you'll see. Oh, here's Jerry, what they're going to do to make fun of him this week. But when you binge watch 20 episodes in a row, you're like, leave him alone.
For my mural, I was inspired by the death of my grandma.
You said mural.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. You said urinal. I heard it.
Anyway, she...
Jerry, why don't you put that urinal in the men's room so people can urinate all over it?
He's not done anything, and it's the same thing with, like, Toby, of, like, okay, it's really funny how much Michael hates him, but if you binge watch, like, 5 or 6 episodes in a row, like, this is just bullying, and it gets really uncomfortable to watch. Like I said, when he just puts his food on the floor for no reason.
But the show, a lot of the time, obviously, is intentionally trying to make things uncomfortable, and I think it does go to show just how good they are when there's literal episodes that, like, for example, Scott's Tots, where I don't generally watch it because I find it uncomfortable.
Which is a skill. It's a skill to, like, write and act out something that cringy. And that's something the original series was well known for, so they've, like, matched that.
I think another good example is Dinner Party.
Dinner Party might be one of the best ones, because there's so many good lines in that one, of just the bit where he's like, his plasma TV on the wall. Like, he's sad 15-inch plasma screen TV, where it's just, sometimes I'll just stand here for hours and hours and hours.
A lot of people in the room, you need more space. Voila, right into the wall. Wow. Sometimes I will just stand here and watch television for hours. I love it.
It's so sad. And we've got to give a shout out to the lady who plays his missus. Do you have her name
plays
there?
Jan.
Yeah, do you have, like, the actress who plays Jan? Because she is so good at playing that role.
Jan Levinson is portrayed by Melora Hardin.
She's so good. And it's like, it's a skill to play a character that despicable.
Yeah, it truly is. And just, I think the cringiness and greatness of the Dinner Party episode, I think for a lot of people, stems from the fact that you've, like, been in that room before.
Everyone's been there. It's one of those very relatable scenarios of just, you want to leave. You want to curl into a ball and leave. It's like just two people are having an argument, and just the bit where it's like, we're going to go. It's like, no. Stay. Look, you're making them awkward now. Look what you're doing. Look what you're doing, Michael. Look what you're doing. Look, you've made our guests feel uncomfortable, and it's just, you just want to curl into a ball and just disappear.
I was watching Jim's face.
I was watching Jim.
And he was laughing.
No.
Look, he's
smile.
Look at him. He's laughing.
Michael and Jan seem to be playing their own separate game, and it's called Let's See How Uncomfortable We Can Make Our Guests. And they're both winning.
And then when she, like, starts playing her assistant's record, that clearly, like, the implication is that she was sleeping with him at one point.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh yeah, we'll put on, like, Hunter's CD. It's like talking about how he loves Jan essentially, and it's just like you sitting there and you can feel yourself, I should say, like, crunching into that little ball of, like, oh.
I'd rather be anywhere but here, and that's, I think, the strength of the show was its side characters.
Yes.
Yeah. And, like, I think we mentioned Ed Helms. He gets rightfully shit on because they basically just changed his character, and then he went to be in a Hangover movie, and they had to basically just torpedo his character arc. The whole, like, thing where he's, like, dating Erin, which basically just leaves a sour taste in your mouth for the rest of the season. What's your favourite, like, side character in The Office? Like, not in, like, the main crew, but someone who just turns up.
I think is probably Robert California.
Robert California for the manager position. Who took one look around and left. He drove down to Florida and convinced Joe to make him CEO. CEO. Her own job.
Oh, David Spade. That was David Spade, right?
James Spader.
James Spader. I was thinking David Spade. No, he's a terrible actor. James Spader's a great actor.
Ultron himself, yeah.
Yeah.
I love how many moments where he's like, okay, let's see how this plays out. And it's like, what? It's like, Catherine Tate just comes in and decides, like, well, Andy's not at his desk, I'm the manager now. And he's like, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Andy calls him up, like, crying on the phone to him, like, she can't just take my job. It's like, well, where were you? Well,
what are you going to do about it?
I don't know. It doesn't matter where or what. That was my job. And he's like, well, let's see what happens. Let's see how this plays out.
Yeah, I think I've got to give shout outs to Gabe as well. I know he becomes like a member of the principal cast in later seasons, but I just love like when he initially shows up.
Why don't you just tell you what your schedule is?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I could get a girlfriend. Wouldn't have to go to Amsterdam 7 times a year. But I'm young, right? I will date when I'm dead.
Yeah, and the fact that they got like Kathy Bates in.
You just know as well, like Kathy Bates was just absolutely like when she walks on. It's like you get a James Spade, you get a Kathy Bates. You're gonna get a good performance. I love that they made her play against type. And that's which is a really good thing to do when you're casting for a comedy show. And I remind of Community, Arrested Development.
Oh right,
where they brought in Carl Weathers. And initially they were going to make him play a macho guy, and supposedly Carl Weathers himself was like, no, I know something would be way funnier. Make me cheap as fuck. Which leads to some of the best lines in the show of like he's putting like chicken bones in his pocket. Like, take that home, son. Put that in the thing with some potatoes. You got a stew going, son.
Whoa. There's still plenty of meat on that bone. Now you take this home, throw it in a pot, add some broth, a potato. Baby, you got a stew going.
You know, some people write it off as like, I even made the joke earlier of like, maybe they shouldn't have made those last couple of seasons. They're all really good moments, but...
There's some moments, but just the moment Michael leaves, that's probably where the show should have ended, but there were still some storylines I wanted to wrap up.
But there are some good characters that continue into that point, like we mentioned, like with, you know, Gabe and Catherine Tate coming in and stuff like that. It does continue to still have good elements and moments, but then that's also counteracted by, say, for example, the Andy and Erin arc, as you said.
Yeah, just got torpedoed because Ed Helms went to do a Hangover movie.
That particular character just becomes like infuriating to be involved in the show still.
Yeah, and I can see and understand why people would like, you know, just write off those last seasons because you don't want to see the character take that act. You know what's coming. It's like the television watching equivalent of a car crashing in slow motion, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Like, you know it's going. You know, as much as that character is fun and interesting in those earlier seasons, you know that his character is going to get, like, you know, just torpedoed.
I think for most people, it's probably more that just you don't want that to happen to Erin. You don't want her to get treated that way.
Because Ellie Kemper is fucking adorable and a national treasure, and has some of my favourite line readings.
And just has like a really sad backstory as a character in the show. You just want her to not have a nice life.
You really do, yeah. And so I will give let's give a shout out to some of like, you know, the better character moments then. Because, you know, we shat on it a little bit at the start, so I'm going to, like, Erin, I just love when she's, like, talking, it's like the Bob Marley song, no woman, no cry. And it's just, you kind of got it. You kind of got it.
Last week, Andy set sail for the Bahamas to sell his family's boat, and he took his brother, but not me. I was kind of sad at first, but then I remembered that Bob Marley song, no woman, no cry.
One of just the best moments from Steve Carell is just driving into the lake.
Oh yeah, just not looking around, just no fucks given his drives into the lake at 1 mile an hour.
It knows what it's talking about, Dwight. There must be some kind of shortcut that we're not seeing here.
Make a right. Maybe it's a shortcut, Dwight. It said go to the right.
It can't mean that. There's a lake there.
I think it knows where it is going.
This is
the machine knows.
This is the lake.
Stop yelling at me.
No, it's
Stop
yelling. There's no road here.
Speaking of Dwight, I do like the bit where he's fighting Andy, and just the little back and forth between Rainn Wilson and Ed Helms, where he's like, what's going on outside? It's, oh, Andy's running Dwight over with his car.
What's happening?
Andy's running over Dwight with his car.
Whoa! Hey!
Yeah!
Shout out to that tactic, though. If I keep it under 5 miles an hour, it's completely silent.
Then you just get Oscar, he deserves the win.
You guys, what is he doing?
Why isn't Dwight turning around?
The Prius is silent if he keeps it under 5 miles per hour.
He deserves the win.
But it's just the argument of like, what are you going to protect Angela from? A bear? When's the last time you saw a bear in Scranton? It's like, last year! Or just the bit where he's like hitting his car with his belt, and when he's like, what's that, Dwight? What's that? And every time he tries to talk, he just beeps the horn.
Oh,
He's just such a specific dick move, but he does it like twice. Any other moments that, like, you know, just stand out in your mind?
Yeah, another one is when Michael's trying to talk about how depression can affect people in the workplace and sets up like the big bouncy castle on the trampoline, and they're like bouncing the watermelons off the trampoline as the test, and it's like, maybe this is a bad idea. And then they realize like, oh, there's a bouncy castle. Like, he thinks he's going to make this jump.
Yeah.
Like, if you take this jump, Michael, this is not going to go well. You will actually kill yourself.
Oh my God, he's gonna jump.
Oh. He's going to kill himself, pretending to kill himself.
Yeah.
But in that moment, you can see that he's thinking about it. And it's a great little bit of acting that you can see him trying to like work out in his head. Should he do it?
Because he thinks in his head he's going to make that jump and land safely, so he's going to prove them wrong.
And I think just like some of the little character moments of acting, like Steve Carell when he burns his foot.
Oh God, yeah.
Just these exasperated call of like, help me, and everyone in the office is like, all like this the non-verbal acting of everyone's like, I'm not talking.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying shit.
And then there's like a couple of moments from like, you know, the smaller, you know, side characters in the show, like when Phyllis gets power over Angela, 'cause she finds out about the affair that she's having, and she takes over the party planning committee, and she's just sitting there relishing in this tiny modicum of power.
Which is such like, you know, an office thing. That's like, we all know that person who gets like the tiniest modicum and just lords it over everybody else.
But you kind of would relish it when a character like Angela is the one you've got power over, because she's such like a horrible person to be around.
But she's that kind of horrible person where it's under the veneer of like, I will lord my moral superiority over you.
Mm-hmm.
And just be a complete hypocrite, like when she's like, you know, she's a mistress.
Another one that just shout out in just the opposite kind of sense of like how sad it is, and it's just played as like one of the jokes to the openings. The moment where Kevin's talking about how proud he is of his chili.
That one's so... You say, do you always skip like Scott's Tots? I have to skip that. Because it's just like Brian Baumgartner is so pathetic when he's trying to like scoop up the chili.
I toast my own ancho chilies. It's a recipe passed down from Malone's for generations. It's probably the thing I do best.
He's got like, he spills the chili, he gets the clipboard in a panic in his trying to like...
And you can like, it's so palpable. But again, like, he's a great actor. I like the bit where they go into the wedding and just the panic where they threw away his shoes. It's really... It's funny, but I want to give a shout out to his acting. It's also very believable because his reaction of just, you threw away my shoes, and like you can see he's like, but I have no shoes.
For a wedding of all things.
Yeah, that's it. And his panic is very genuine and believable. And I want to give a shout outs to like, you know, Brian Baumgartner's acting in that moment.
And the moment when it's him at the end of the episode where he's like, you know what? The Kleenex shoes, they were a hit. They were such a conversation starter. But man, these puppies are howling. And he just takes them off and sticks his feet in like the communal ice box for the hotel.
Which is like, that's I can't watch that. That makes me cringe so much. It's like,
because it makes me think of like,
who's done that?
Oh no, how many other people have like actually done that in real life and contaminated the ice?
Kleenex shoes were a huge conversation piece, but man, my dogs are barking.
Someone has done that.
Yeah, and the show is just, we rag on its characters and its moments a little bit to begin with, but like, you know, it is just so full of great moments that hopefully I can keep putting clips in of without getting copyright struck.
Well,
we'll see how that goes.
It's the thing, the criticism we often get is like, do you even like this show? It's like, the reason we have these criticisms, because these are criticisms you wouldn't notice or pick up on unless you'd watched it multiple times. And you don't watch things multiple times unless you do like them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, people only generally watch something once.
Yes,
and generally the criticisms are more fun to talk about, because otherwise it would be me and you going, isn't this great?
Yeah.
And that would not make for an interesting video.
And, you know, we get moments like in this video where we can have times where we appreciate it, but we also like to, you know, have a bit more nuance and talk about the ups and the downs. And the show just does a great job of, like, for example, another moment I've recently just seen is where Ryan is, like, trying to be an asshole to Jim as the new co-manager, and sending around the email that Jim's not really the boss and stuff, and then Jim starts to question himself of, like, wait, can I even fire anyone? I don't even know. I never questioned it. And then the way that he treats Ryan and gets his win back over him is to just put him in that tiny little box office, like the cupboard.
He just puts you in the closet and is like, in you go.
It's like, oh, but no, I'm sorry, Jim. Just shuts the door in his face.
Your new office. How great is that, right? For a job well done. Well, not done.
I will do my work right now. I will stay late tonight.
Right.
I'm very sorry about everything.
You're a good kid. You know when it gets bigger once you're in there. Enjoy it.
It's just there's some really good moments of just like genuinely believable acting, and like this feels like a real person in that moment of just him just closing the door.
Everyone in that show does a fantastic job of making the cartoonish element still seem realistic and still seem like this is happening in real life.
Yeah, like I said, we mentioned like Paul Lieberstein earlier as Toby. Like, oh, we're gonna have like, you know, poker night. I invited the Boy Scouts, and just Toby's listing all the things like, you know, it's a school night and it's alcohol and equipment that's like industrial scale. Do I need to keep saying things? It's like, because he just keeps listing and then no one's reacting, so he just slowly trails off as you would have like, do I need to keep talking? Do you really not get why this is an issue?
Yeah. Like how many red flags there are right now. It is fantastic, and obviously this is one of those episodes where we basically don't even need the wiki to exist.
It's an excuse to talk about the show.
It's just an excuse to talk about the show, throw in some, you know, funny clips and stuff. Yeah, I wonder if, like, I scroll down here, if there's any, like, specific mentions of, like, any trivia or anything.
Well, there's a couple of things that I'm aware of. It's like, the one is that probably people were screaming about, was that Rainn Wilson originally auditioned to play the manager role, which is quite meta because he didn't get it. So he couldn't even be the manager in real life. That's one people say a lot. The Jim and Pam. It's oh god, I forgot the actors' names now. I've been calling them Jim and Pam for a while. It's
John Krasinski and Jenna Fisher.
The reason they got cast as Jim and Pam respectively is because they both went into audition and they screen tested with multiple Jims and multiple Pams. And when they interviewed all the Jims and all the Pams afterwards, the two that actually said they liked each other were those two actors. So they had the most genuine and believable chemistry.
Maybe I can throw in a couple of quick shots here. It's really interesting to see some of the actors that auditioned for Jim and Dwight.
Like Adam Scott, I think, auditioned for the role of like Michael Scott, which would have been a very different show.
I know he auditioned for Jim. I don't know about Michael Scott.
Oh, was it Jim that he auditioned for?
Yeah.
Quantity and type of paper, and, you know, if we can supply it to them and if they can purchase it, and I'm boring myself just talking about it. So
there was Seth Rogen auditioned for Dwight.
If you're in the field, you can clean a man's wound by taking a whiz on it. That is actually in first aid books written by the Red Cross.
But yeah, I'm always a fan of those, aren't you? Of like just those random what if moments from like entertainment history. Of like, wait, this act, like when you find out that like Chadwick Boseman initially auditioned for Drax the Destroyer.
Oh, I
it's
didn't
like
know
one of those
that.
moments, like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, he could have been Drax the Destroyer.
One, you know, bit of trivia which leads me to talk about a character that we somehow haven't mentioned yet. Talking about the Office Ladies podcast.
Yes.
Which is both Jenna Fisher and Angela Kinsey, who are Pam and Angela in the show. They have a podcast where it's still ongoing, going back and talking about each episode and getting insights from the show, and it's very interesting to listen to. And it mentions that the theme song for the podcast, Rubber Tree, is performed by Creed Bratton. And we haven't talked about Creed.
Well, it's quite fit. It's very meta, because Creed doesn't really talk about Creed that much. And yeah, the actor who plays Creed, like, he's a real musician in real life, and he just plays himself, basically.
Yes, he does, yeah. He kind of plays himself as the version of his life where something went wrong and he had to kind of disappear into the background into a menial office job.
To the point where, as well, like when Creed shows you, oh, my name's not Creed, it's actually this guy. Like, that's that actor's real passport that he shows. It's like that's his real passport and his real name.
Creed is one of those characters where he doesn't have many moments, but like nearly every moment he has is just solid gold.
Every single one, yeah.
It's like, just think of the moment when he's like, oh, basically, you know, obscene watermark makes it onto all the paper and they lose like a massive client. And he immediately is so on it that he figures out like who in a different part of the company wasn't in that day, then blames it on them and gets them fired because he's quality assurance and he should have been doing his job.
The only difference between me and a homeless man is this job. I will do whatever it takes to survive, like I did when I was a homeless man.
I think one of the episodes that I watch, and that's one where I get really mad about it, is the episode where it's the Willy Wonka one, where the 5 golden tickets. And watching Steve Carell just squirm as Michael Scott, as he slowly tries to shift the blame to Dwight. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons I fucking hate that. It's another one of those little moments that makes me hate that character, because he never actually gets called out on doing that.
But I love the fact that the moment it turns around and it goes, oh, actually, we're not mad at you anymore, because the company decided to buy all their supplies from us.
Yep.
All of a sudden, Dwight's like, I'm going to make you fucking suffer.
Which does make for a very satisfying conclusion when you see like Michael Scott, Steve Carell being like seething at the idea that someone's getting praised something he did.
This meeting sounds like it's Wonka fans only. He's never seen the movie.
All right.
I'm sure everybody watching this episode has probably watched The Office multiple times already. I don't really need to tell anyone to go and watch it. So I guess just list your favourite moments in the comments below, because there are so many that I naturally haven't been able to put in yet because we only have a limited time to make an episode. But yeah, it's just always fun to talk about and always fun to just rewatch and notice new things and remember all, you know, old funny little bits that you forgot about.
Or just like little character moments that you didn't see. Like one that I think gets singled out a lot is the chicken pot pie cold open. Like when Michael Scott falls asleep, he ate the entire chicken pot pie. And they change all like the clocks and stuff. A detail that I only noticed on a rewatch is that when Dwight runs out to the car park, he's not wearing shoes, so he can run quieter. So he can run, and he's like, that's such a Dwight thing to do, right?
It's such a Dwight move, yeah.
To take the shoes off, but then he's really like, I did it. And again, these are the things you only notice on a rewatch.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, for anyone that did just watch it one time, it is a really good show to rewatch and look for new details and stuff. We didn't even talk about Mose, who's just like the producer of the show.
Is Michael Schur, isn't it, one of the writers?
Yeah.
And the fact he cast himself as Mose. And I think one of my favourite, I'll end on this, because he always cracks me up. He's like, you need to fight your fear. And he just runs in with a sweater that says fear on it or something like that. And he just stands. Or the part where like they're pulling in the car and then he runs alongside the car.
I was going to say that moment, just like running alongside the car.
For no reason.
Oh my gosh.
It's fantastic. But thank you all for watching, and thank you all for celebrating the show that is The American Office with us. Hope everyone has a lovely day.
Yes.
Thank you.
Cheers, everybody.